So today we're going to be doing lesson 7 entitled Associated Ratios and the Value of a Ratio. What we're going to find out today is what this word value means and how we relate it to a ratio. As we're going to find out, our I can statement is I can understand the relationship between ratios and fractions. So this fraction is actually going to be our value part. The value of a ratio is actually its fraction component. So for example, if I have the ratio 2 to 3, I can rewrite it as 2 to 3. This fraction is the ratio's value. So the ratio's value is 2/3. Alright, let's jump in with our first part. Here's a quick little video on equivalent
let's
ratios
think about another
and
scenario
fractions.
involving ratios. In this case, let's think about the ratio of the number of apples. The number of apples to, instead of taking the ratio of the number of apples to the number of oranges, let's take the number of apples to the number of fruit. The number of fruit that we have over here. I encourage you to pause the video and think about that on your own. Well, how many total apples do we have? We have 2, 4, 6, 8 apples. So we're going to have 8 apples. And then how much total fruit do we have? Well, we have 8 apples and we have 3, 6, 9, 12 oranges. So our total fruit is 8 plus 12. We have 20 pieces of fruit. So this ratio is going to be 8 to 20. Or if we want to write this in a more reduced form, we can divide both of these by 4. 4 is their greatest common divisor. And so this is the same thing as a ratio. 8 divided by 4 is 2, and 20 divided by 4 is 5. So 2 to 5. Now does this make sense? Well, if we divide everything into groups of 4, or if we divide into 4 groups, I should say. So 1 group, 2 groups, 3 groups, and 4 groups. That's the largest number of groups that we can divide these into so that we don't have to cut up the apples or the oranges. We see that in each group, for every 2 apples, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pieces of fruit. For every 2 apples, we have 5 pieces of fruit. And this is actually a good opportunity for us to introduce another way of representing ratios, and that's using fraction notation. So we could also represent this ratio as 2 over 5, as the fraction 2 over 5. Whenever we put it in the fraction, it's very important to recognize what this represents. This is telling us the fraction of fruit that are apples. So we could say 2/5 of the fruit, of the number of fruit, I guess I could say, of number of fruit is equal to the number of apples. Or let me just say 2/5 of fruit, if we're just speaking in more typical terms. 2/5 of fruit are apples. Are apples. So once again, this is introducing another way of representing ratios. We could say that the ratio of apples to fruit, once again, it could be 2 to 5 like that. It could be 2, instead of putting this little colon there, we could literally write out the word 2 to 5. Or we could say it's 2/5, the fraction 2/5, which would all sometimes be read as 2 to 5. This is also, when it's written this way, you could also read that as a ratio depending on the context. In a sentence like this, I would read this as 2/5 of the fruit are apples.
Alright, so now let's get on to our lesson. So just think of this question for a while. Which of the following correctly models that of the number of red gumballs? I'm going to start over. Which of the following correctly models that the number of red gumballs is 5 to 3, the number of white gumballs? So here it's asking me to make a ratio that's comparing red to white. You're actually going to answer this first question on Socrative, but I'm going to help you nail out one of the choices. What I see right here is that this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, This is actually my total. 8 would be my red to total. But red is asking for the ratio to white, not the total. So the answer is not D. Please try this one on Socrative. And then check to see if you got that right answer. So hopefully you got the last one correct. If you didn't, the correct answer you can come back and review. So here's our next problem. The duration or time of two films are modeled below. So here's a model for how long film A is. Here's a model for how long film B is. Complete the ratio of the length of film A to the length of film B is, so let's see what it's asking for. The ratio of film A to film B. Well, if I look up here, I see A is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's going to be 5 to however long film B is. Well, I look and I see B is right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So my ratio of film A to film B is 5 to 7. Question B is asking the same thing, only it's asking as a fraction form. The length of film A is blank the length of film B. So it's asking us now for the value of the ratio. So our value is just our ratio in fraction form. Well, film A is on the top because it's asking for that first. Film B is on the bottom. So my ratio is 5 to 7, or 5/7. The length of film A is 5/7 of the length of film B. This one's asking me for the opposite. The length of film B is blank the length of film A. I want you guys to try this one on Socrative. Check to see if you got it correct. You may have to pause the film while you log on, or pause the video. When you're done, go to click continue or click play on this. So good job. Hopefully you got that last one correct. So it's kind of an easy lesson today. So you're going to be doing these ones by yourself. If it looks like you're struggling, I'll come over and help you as I'm checking your results on Socrative. So try this problem. Sammy brought 8 more shrimp than Caden brought. When they combined their shrimp together, they had 32 shrimp all together, or total. What's this saying? It's saying that the total amount is what? They're saying the total amount is 32 because that's what they have all together. It's saying Sammy brought more shrimp than Caden. In fact, he brought 8 more. So I'm just going to make a little tape diagram for me right there. For an 8 plus, Caden is going to have a smaller amount. So what I need to do is I need to figure out what total number do I have that Sammy would have 8 more than Caden. Well, let's draw a tape diagram and see if we can't figure something out. So this is going to be my total. And it's going to be the longest since it involves all the shrimp. Caden, I'm going to draw. Caden's and Sammy's tape diagram should equal this. So I'm going to draw Caden's like this. Sammy's is going to be larger. That might be a little too large, but it's not going to be perfect. So now I'm going to ask myself, well, what is this part right here? Well, that part is going to be 8. How did I get that? Well, it's telling me up here that Sammy brought 8 more, and I see this is the 8 more because Caden stops right here. So this part is going to be equal. That part will be equal. These are the equal amounts. Tape diagrams, make sure we draw them the same length so we can say when they're equal to each other. Then we have this 8. This total is 32. So what do we know? We know that Sammy plus Caden's equals 32. So, well, what is Sammy's? Sammy's, if I look at my expression, there's an x plus an 8, x plus 8, and then there's another x here, and that equals, oops, I forgot to put the x though, that equals 32. If I remember from my equivalent expressions unit, I can add equal lengths together. So my coefficients are these x's with the same variables. That's 2x plus 8 equals 32. And then what I'm going to do is I need to get this x by itself. So I'm going to subtract 8 from each side. I'm left with 2x equals 24. And I divide by 2, and I'm left with x equals 12. So what that means is Caden brought 12 shrimp. Sammy brought 8 more. So he brought 12 plus 8. He brought 20. What I can do, if you're not good with those equations, I can go back to my tape diagram model and I can add them together. Remember, Caden only had this much, but Sammy had 8 more. So he had the same amount as Caden plus another 8. And together they had 32. So all together equals 32. And you can just guess and check now of what numbers can I put in for x that when I add 8 I get 32. And you can just start checking. You could say, well, if I put 10 in, and 10 that would be 10, 20, 28. 28 doesn't equal 32. So I'm going to pick another number. Try 12. 12 plus 12, that's 24. 24 plus 8, that's 32. So here I know what x is as well. Either way is okay. Alright, so let's try this one. What is the ratio of the number of shrimp Sammy bought to the number of shrimp Caden brought? Well, Sammy brought 20. Caden brought 12. So my ratio is 20 to 12. Express the number of shrimp Sammy brought as a fraction of the number of shrimp Caden brought. Well, it's asking for the same thing, only this time it's saying a fraction. So it's 20 to 12, or 20 twelfths. Okay, let's look at this next one. What is the ratio of the number of shrimp Sammy brought to the total number of shrimp? Well, Sammy brought 20 shrimp. And the total says up here is they brought 32 altogether. So it's 32. My ratio is 20 to 32. This last question is just again asking for the fraction or the value of the ratio. What fraction of the total shrimp did Sammy bring? Well, he brought 20 to 32, or 28 out of 32. This is 20 30-seconds. Alright, let's try this problem now. A food company that produces peanut butter decides to try out a new version of its peanut butter that is normally extra crunchy, using twice the number of peanut chunks as normal. The company hosts a sampling of its new product at grocery stores and finds out that 5 out of every 9 customers prefer the new extra item. Well, this sounds like a ratio to me. We're comparing 5 to 9. So let's check and see what our question is asking us for. Say, make a list of ratios that might be relevant for this situation. So we're just using this information to write ratios. The number of ratio of people preferring new extra crunchy to the total number is what? Well, it's telling me that people who like the new product, so the new product is that extra crunchy. The ones that like the new product is this 5. So I'm going to start by putting 5, 2, and now it's saying the total number. So what is my total number? My total number is, as you said, out of every 9 customers. So 9 is my total. When they checked with 9 people, 5 preferred that. Let's check this next one. The ratio of number of people preferring regular crunchy to the total number surveyed is what? Well, I already know my total number is 9. Now what is this part though? This part is saying preferring regular crunchy. Mr. Wimbley, they didn't tell me that. They actually did. So let's see how we can figure it out. My total is 9. My people who prefer extra crunchy is 5. How did we get from 5 to 9? Because there's these missing people here. Well, that's easy. I had to add 4. This 4 represents the 4 people out of 9 who prefer the regular. So this ratio, the number of people who prefer regular to the total, is 4 to 9. You're going to try C by yourself on Socrative, but before you do, let's look at D. D says the number of people preferring new extra crunchy to the number preferring regular crunchy. Well, I just look up here and I see that 4 is my number of people who prefer regular, and it's asking me to compare that to my number who like extra crunchy. So my extra crunchy is this 5 up here, that extra crunchy. So my ratio is 5 to 4. All right, you're going to try C on Socrative. Good luck. If you need to pause the video, be sure you unpause it after you've answered it to continue. All right, so we're going to look at this now. It says let's use the value of each ratio to make the multiplicative comparisons for each of the ratios we described here. So I'm going to be referring back to, oops, that would be the wrong slide, back to my previous slide right here, using these ratios to write the multiplicative value. Multiplicative value means what can I multiply it as? Or, easier put, what is its fraction? Since I know how to multiply fractions. Apparently don't know how to spell fractions, but I'm going to attempt it again. So my multiplicative comparison is what fraction is it? So let's check with this first one. The number preferring new extra crunchy is blank of the total. So this is asking me to compare the new to the total. If I look back here, my new to the total, that ratio is 5 to 9. What is 5 to 9 as, 5 to 9 as a fraction? Well, it is 5 over 9. My next one says number preferring regular to the total. Well, I look here and I see my regular is 4, my total is still 9. So this fraction is 4 to 9. C, the number preferring regular crunchy is blank of those preferring the new extra crunchy. Well, my regular crunchy, I look right here and I see that is 4. My extra crunchy, I look and it's telling me it's this 5. So that ratio is 4 to 5, or 4/5. Okay, your job is to figure out what is the ratio of the number that prefer the new extra crunchy to those that prefer the regular crunchy. Then you're going to answer on Socrative what fraction that is. If you need to pause the video, make sure you unpause it after you answer the question. Alright, so here's our next problem. The company is planning to produce 90,000 containers of crunchy peanut butter. How many of these containers should be the new crunchy variety? How many of these containers should be the regular? What would be helpful in solving this problem? Does one of our comparison statements on the previous page help us? Notice it's asking for how many. It's not asking for a ratio, so you're not going to give me the ratio of 4 to 5. You're going to give me a number. Like, for example, they should produce 2,000 new containers, and then all the rest would be the regulars. So let's check. Statement A and Statement B on the previous page are going to help us. Well, Statement A says 5 to 9. Statement 4 is regular, and that says 4 to 5. So just so I don't have to keep going back and forth, I'm going to take those notes down. My new to the total was 5 to 9, and my regular to the total was 4 to 9. So what are we going to do here? Well, I know that when I multiply fractions, it's going to give me a number as well. If I check, I'm going to multiply these by that 90,000. It's telling me 90,000 containers are going to be made, and 5/9 of those are going to be crunchy, the new extra crunchy kind. So what do I get when I multiply that? Well, if I remember how I multiply fractions is, I write the fraction. I'm going to put my whole number over 1. and then I just multiply straight across. So this will be 45,000, and this is going to be, oops, not 9, it's going to be 5, is going to be 9, 9 times 1. And then what I do, I divide, and when I divide, I'm going to find out I get 50,000. Your job is to tell me how many regular containers should they make. How many regular containers should they make? Making 50,000 new, how many regular should they make? Answer this on Socrative. If you need to pause the video, make sure you unpause it after we're done. Okay, now I want... Alright, so let's look at this problem. My ratio of the regular crunchy peanut butter was 4 to 9. My ratio of the new is 5 to 9. If we're unsure, I go back to check on this previous page. 5 to 9 is the new, 4 to 9 is that regular. And then what do? Well, I have this 2,000, and I need to figure out what purpose does this 2,000 have? Well, this 2,000 is connected to this. So if I remember from a fraction, look over here on the side, if I remember from a fraction, my top number is my parts. How many parts of the whole I have? Here I have 4 parts, but I need to get to 5 parts. So I need to figure out how big one part is. So I have 2,000, and that 2,000 makes up 4 parts. So here's a tape diagram. Together, this whole tape diagram is 2,000, but I need to break up into 4 equal parts. Well, what can I do that with? That's 500, 500, 500, 500. So here I have 2,000. I could also have done it, since I'm making equal parts, I could have just divided this by 4. So each part is 500. So now it's asking me for how many containers of the new kind. Well, my new kind, there's 5 parts, so that's going to be 5 times 500. And when I multiply 5 times 500, I get 2,500 peanut butter containers. So let's try this next one. If the company decides to produce 10,000 containers of new extra crunchy, so new extra crunchy was a ratio of 5 to 9, how many containers of the regular crunchy peanut butter would it produce? Well, now I'm going to make a tape diagram, but now I have 5 parts. So I need to break it up into 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. How big is this whole thing? Well, it's 10,000. Each part has to be the same. So I have 2 ways. One, I can do 10,000 divided by 5, or I can just think in my head, what plus what plus what plus what plus what equals 10,000. Either way, I'm going to get 2,000. Okay, so now I'm going to look at what is my question asking. It's asking for the number of regular crunchy peanut butter. Well, I have 4 to 9 as my ratio, so there's going to be 4 parts. So I'm just going to take 4 of these. So that's 8,000. 2,000 times 4. So my answer is 8,000 containers. It makes sense too because more people like the new crunchy than the regular. So my new one should be higher than the regular. So let's look at this last one. The company decides to produce only 3,000 containers of new extra crunchy. So I'm going to write down new extra crunchy is that 5 to 9 ratio and 3,000. How many containers of regular crunchy would it produce? Well, again, I'm going to draw a tape diagram just for a visual if needed. The whole thing is 3,000. And since it is at the extra crunchy, the number of parts it makes up is 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So 3,000 divided by 5, or I can use my tape diagram to figure it out, either way, but I'm getting 600. Okay, so now it's asking for regular. Well, for regular, there's 4 parts out of 9, so I'm taking 4, and I'm 600, 1200, 1800, 2400, or I can do 4 times 600. Either one's going to give me that answer of 2,400. All right, so what this means is our closing statement. So we're done. Given the ratio a to b, b is not 0, and the value of the ratio of the quotient is a to b. So for example, if my ratio is 2 to 5, then the value of the ratio is 2 to 5. Alright, for your exit ticket, I would like you to make up a ratio on Socrative and then tell me the value of that ratio. When you're typing on the computer, you tell me the value of that ratio is, you're going to use what's called the /. So for example, cannot use this example, but you may use another. My ratio is 4 to 5, so I would type that in. Then I'm going to find the value, so I'm going to put 4/5. Alright, good luck. When you're finished, please play Ratio Rumble when you are done. When you are finished, please play Ratio